from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Monday night edition of the program. We're live, we're national. I'm happy to be here with you. Our phone number is 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And I guess we're going to get to the big stories of the evening. I think right now there's the biggest story I'm seeing here internationally, is at least, Israel is now fighting its war against Hamas and really against Iran on 5 fronts. We're going to get into all of that at the bottom of the hour. So I'm going to switch gears and get to, I think, the biggest story domestically is in the last couple of hours. Trump was just really railing against a bunch of things. He really hammered China really tough, really hard at the rally that he did in Pennsylvania, Indiana, Pennsylvania, to be exact. And something that he said in an interview earlier today was that we have to control our land. We have to control our economy. We have to have control of our borders. We have to make sure we're in charge of our own country. We're losing that with these people, these unbelievable so-called leaders we have. They're allowing our country to be sold out from under us. We have to be very careful, and we have to be very prudent. We can't let this happen. Do you think, I should probably be doing this in my best Trump impression, do you think that China would let us go in and buy land and do what they do? I don't think so, okay? It won't happen. So we have to be very careful. And I'll even throw in, believe me. Now, yeah, I don't do the best Trump. I'm no Sean Farish, but Trump is right. And we're going to get to that in a little bit with United States Senator Marsha Blackburn. But I want to get into a couple other things that are in the news that might be interesting. The Trump assassin, he wrote a letter months before he attempted to kill Trump at the golf course. And guess what? He talks about killing Trump in that letter. Yep. Let me give you a little bit of this. This court document that was submitted by federal prosecutors today showed that Ryan Routh, the suspect in the apparent second assassination attempt against former President Trump, allegedly wrote a handwritten letter saying that it was an assassination attempt on the former president. The document was filed before a federal judge denied a bond hearing for Mr. Routh, holding him without bail until his trial. The note was addressed to the world, and it reads, "This was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, but I failed you. I tried my best and gave it all the gumption I could muster." That's according to the court papers. How's that? This guy must be dumber than we think. Or maybe they think we're dumber than they think. Routh dropped off a box at someone's home that included the letter, according to the filing. Law enforcement officials were contacted on September 18th, 3 days after Routh was arrested, by a person who said that Mr. Routh dropped off the box at this location in the months prior to the incident. The witness opened the box after learning of Routh's arrest, finding ammunition, phones, and various letters, according to the documents. Prosecutors said the note and other evidence found at the scene showed that Routh was explaining exactly how he was going to do this and thought that he would be detained while the government built its case against him. A detention hearing is scheduled for Monday morning in a Florida court. Here's a quote from the filing. It says, "Because the facts are offered for the limited purpose of supporting the United States request for pretrial detention, the facts in this written proffer do not set forth all of the information or evidence known to the United States in this ongoing investigation." Prosecutors also found a notebook with dozens of pages filled with names and phone numbers pertaining to Ukraine discussions and how to join in the combat on behalf of the Ukraine. So this guy seemed to be very, very active in his recruitment of soldiers and whatnot to battle on behalf of Ukraine. I wonder if he's Ukrainian. It's an interesting question. Anyway, that's the story on that guy, who, in my opinion, is a whack job, but, that doesn't change anything, right? There's a lot of whack jobs out there. Let's see. Over the weekend, I was on Newsmax, and that's not breaking news, but I want to talk about a couple of things I talked about, because it was really interesting. There was a panel discussion that I was a part of with one of the guests we had on this show, a guy named Julio Rivera, who does cybersecurity and whatnot, and another panelist, Democrat strategist, who was very nice. I mean, she was a nice woman, but some of the things that she said I thought were so interesting. They were talking about the Trump rally before the weekend, the one in New York, and she asked her, do you think that New York could become a Trump country? She said, no, I don't think it's possible, blah, blah, blah. Then they said, what do you think about President Biden having his first cabinet meeting in 11 months and allowing Jill Biden to run the table? And a lot of people said, well, that's kind of weird because, who does that, right? Do you ever remember Barack Obama ever doing that? Or even George W. Bush? Or El Trompito, right? I don't remember any former presidents holding a cabinet meeting for the first time in almost a year and then telling their wife to run the meeting. So anyway, her response to this was he really wanted to take a moment to show the cabinet how much he appreciated the love of his wife. And I thought, this has got to be one of the craziest things I've ever heard. This man is the sitting president of the United States, the leader of the free world, the commander-in-chief. All of our foreign allies and enemies are looking at this and saying, what in the world is going on? Why is Joe El Baboso Biden not at the helm of the ship? Like, what's up? And I think they tried to end on a positive note, saying, well, Dr. Joe Biden is a very beloved person. And I took exception to that because I thought, A, I don't know anybody who likes Joe Biden. And B, who cares, right? I mean, look, I think for all intent and purpose, depending on your politics, right? If I say Michelle Obama, you might say, oh, I don't like her. But depending on your politics, you might go, oh, my gosh, she's terrific. I love her. I love Oprah, right? There's a lot of people out there that absolutely adore Michelle Obama. Now, that's somebody that if you told me she's held in high regard by a lot of people, I would say, yeah, I agree. I've seen all the studies that they've done. But to tell me that Dr. Jill Biden is a beloved person I'm sure she has a lot of followers on Twitter and things like that. I'm sure there's a degree of fanaticism around her work. But, I mean, she's no Mother Teresa, right? And that was the point I was making. And even if she was, right, Joe Biden shouldn't be calling Mother Teresa to run the cabinet meeting. He can invite her and give her a Medal of Honor or something like that. Anyway, I want to get into this stuff that's going on in the Middle East because Israel has now revealed that this Hezbollah is hiding missiles in civilian homes. You've got residents that are fleeing southern Lebanon. Netanyahu's spoken out about this. There's a lot going on. So when we come back, we're going to hear a little bit from Netanyahu, and we're going to also hear about the farmland crisis that's going on in the United States with China trying to buy everything up, the Chinese Communist Party trying to come at us. U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn joins us next to get to the bottom of it. Don't go anywhere. Keep it locked right here. I'm Rich Valdez.
America at Night, your home for the best election coverage.
We have to be strong and powerful again, and we must put tariffs on foreign predators. They are predators, so that they don't destroy our steel industry. The people that like me the most of the steel, they were dead when I came into office. They were dead. And I put taxes on China. China was dumping massive amounts of steel to destroy our companies. I put a 50% tariff, then I raised it in some cases to 100%. And at a certain level, they said, no mas, we're not doing it. Remember, no mas, Roberto. We love Roberto Durando. And no mas, no mas.
President Trump at a rally just a little while ago, around 8:30 p.m. Eastern time in Indiana, Pennsylvania. And Trump is talking about hammering the Chinese because they're constantly trying to buy up everything and dominate every industry, whether it was the steel industry a couple of years ago when he was president, or the cobalt mines and fields and everything that goes into EV batteries, as well as buying up farmland all over the country. And I want to dig into this because this is China's MO. They're doing it with gold. They're doing it with a lot of commodities. And I want to get the perspective of somebody who understands this better than most. United States Senator Marsha Blackburn joins us. Senator, welcome back.
I'm delighted to join you, and thank you for talking about this China issue.
Of course. Now let's talk a little bit about this because a lot of people are concerned with the fact that there's a lot of farmland that tends to be adjacent to military installations in the United States that China has purchased the land, and some say it's because of intelligence, some say it's because of a future threat, others say it's they want to control the food supply. I would probably go with all of the above. What say you, Senator?
It is an all-of-the-above issue, and that's why I had an amendment on the Defense Authorization Act to prohibit China from buying that land adjacent to our military bases. As you said many times, it is farmland, but we know what they are looking for is proximity so that they can then use drones, so that they can use different series of listening devices, and they can spy on us. And we know that the Chinese Communist Party is intent on surveilling us, on spying on us. Everybody saw the spy balloon just go waltzing across the country, just sashaying happily, surveilling our military bases, securing different information, and sending it back to Beijing. And I truly believe that was a wake-up call for a lot of people who said, hey, wait a minute, they're very blatant in how they're doing this. And one of the ways they are so blatant in it is trying to go in and purchase large parcels of farmland here in the country.
Now, listen, this sounds incredibly problematic to me, Senator. Do you find that this is sending off red flags and alarm bells for people all over the place, or are people just, that's just one more thing the Chinese are buying? Because I remember as a kid, believe it or not, Trump, way before he was involved in being president, he was buying up buildings just so that the Chinese wouldn't buy them because they were trying to take over a lot of real estate in Manhattan. This has been an angle of theirs of buying everything they can as long as you let them buy it for as long as I can remember.
You're right about that. They even bought the famed and historic Waldorf Astoria on the east side of New York. And at that, so many people said, hey, wait a minute, what are you doing? Because this allows the Chinese Communist Party to have a location in New York that they can use to surveil and use as a spy activity center. So many people started to wake up when that transpired. But here is what we do know. The Chinese Communist Party would like to buy land, and they would like to use it for things like solar panels or producing food supply that they are not putting into our food supply chain, but are sending to China. They would also like to control this space that is adjacent to our nation's military post, like Fort Campbell that straddles the Tennessee-Kentucky line, and go in and buy some of this land. And then what are they going to do? They're going to set up their surveillance systems on this property. So it is up to us to say no, and this is something I've been doing I have had legislation that would block them from doing this, that would require the Committee on Foreign Investments in the U.S., it's called CFIUS, to get engaged in this and to look at what the Chinese Communist Party is actually doing and what they're trying to accomplish with this. Because we know the Chinese Communist Party, their goal is to be globally dominant by the time we get to the year 2050.
Wow. Now, so this 2050 plan of theirs, I mean, it sounds very similar to parts of their plan for unrestricted warfare that I read about some years ago. How is that playing out in real time along with this and everything else that they're doing?
Well, what you have to do, and I would encourage your audience, read the book, The 100-Year Marathon. It kind of lays out what the Chinese Communist Party is up to. And then what we have to do as policymakers is to make certain that they are not able to invest in the U.S., they're not able to buy farmland, they're not able to buy our companies, they're not able to overtake us with what they call soft propaganda, which is everything but bullets and warfare or lawfare. So that is something we have to be attuned to, aware of, and then take the extra steps to make certain that we block them from being able to do these purchases of land or companies in the U.S. or to either invest in a U.S. company to have a majority ownership and then try to hide that from U.S. authorities. So, and I will tell you, I really appreciate President Trump's attention to this. He has been diligent on it. He has kept the attention on it and has continued to call it out.
Well, Senator Blackburn, I want to thank you for raising your voice on this issue because this is an incredibly important issue. And for folks that want to follow the work that you're doing and support the work that you're doing in the great state of Tennessee, how do they follow you?
They can go to marshablackburn.com and keep up with us.
Outstanding. Well, Senator, you always do a fantastic job, not only on behalf of the American people, but for the folks in Tennessee. And I've recently gained a particular interest in Tennessee. My nephew is just accepted to become a trooper for the Tennessee State Police and starts the academy in a couple of days, actually, this week. So you'll be in good hands when you're back home in the district.
Yes, we will. Thank you so much. Take care.
My
Bye-bye.
pleasure, Senator. God bless. All right, folks, and we'll continue straight ahead. Your calls, your thoughts, and a little conversation on what's going on in the Middle East with Iran, Lebanon. People are dropping dead. There's rockets. There's all sorts of stuff going on. We're going to get to the bottom of that with one of our favorite generals. Don't go anywhere.
Listen to you, Rich, all the time.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
I have a message for the people of Lebanon. Israel's war is not with you. It's with Hezbollah. For too long, Hezbollah has been using you as human shields. It placed rockets in your living rooms and missiles in your garage. Those rockets and missiles are aimed directly at our cities, directly at our citizens. To defend our people against Hezbollah strikes, we must take out those weapons. Now, starting this morning, the IDF has warned you to get out of harm's way. I urge you, take this warning seriously. Don't let Hezbollah endanger your lives and the lives of your loved ones. Don't let Hezbollah endanger Lebanon. Please, get out of harm's way now. Once our operation is finished, you can come back safely to your homes.
That, of course, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel discussing what's going on with Israel and the action that we're seeing with Hezbollah in Lebanon and other places. It was a busy, busy weekend. There were rockets fired. Of course, last week, the exploding pagers and walkie-talkies. I try to say that with a straight face because, it was carnage for sure. But just the idea of, cell phones or whatever just blowing up in people's pockets, terrorists and whatnot, it's just, I don't know, it's kind of just poetic justice, I think. And the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces today revealed photos of a Hezbollah missile being stored in a private home in southern Lebanon. Now, some of these civilians are listening to warnings by Netanyahu, and they're leaving the area because, they're about to get a siege by the IDF. And I want to learn more about what's going on from beginning to end, soup to nuts, with somebody who understands this pretty well. He's been on a number of times before. Retired Brigadier General Blaine Holt. He was the deputy NATO representative, and he's with us now. General Holt, welcome back, sir.
Oh, it's always good to be with you. But wow, what a sobering week it is, Rich. It's just amazing.
Oh, absolutely. Now, I saw you over the weekend with Brian Lieb, and there was a lot of discussion going on as this was happening in real time, and you guys were kind of giving some reaction to it. And here we are today now with the IDF showing that the Hezbollah people are stashing missiles in private homes, which again is a Hamas tactic, right? It seems to be they all use the same playbook. Talk to us. What's going on?
Well, yeah, the playbook comes out of Iran. We should be very clear where the head of the snake is in all of this. These are all proxies of Iran. But in this particular case, what we've seen over the last actually a month, we've seen ammunition storage sites blown up. We've seen a lot of preparation of the battle space, as we say in military parlance. And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to see a ground war, but it certainly means that they're shaping everything. Why did they do that? Well, certainly it probably didn't help that America has turned its back on its ally, and the crescendo came when Kamala Harris turned off the microphone of Benjamin Netanyahu during a press conference in which she was dressing him down. That's kind of what ignited all of this. But very recently, Israel came into possession of this Conquest of Galilee map, which graphically mapped out a plan that Hezbollah was going to enact very soon, probably on October 7th, the anniversary, and it would have made October 7th last year look very, very small in comparison. So Israel's calculus was, we're going, and they shaped the battlefield with new weapons last week. You mentioned the beepers and pager day, and then into solar panel day, and then now here we are with 2 tank divisions lined up on that border, and very fair warning. Another technology just got unveiled today that we didn't know the Israelis had, and that is their ability to thermographically map buildings. They know where all the missiles are. They know where every single one of them are. And yes, they were storing them inside these poor people's homes in southern Lebanon, in many cases extorting or blackmailing them into storing these missiles. Well, these are the exact people that Netanyahu's saying, you need to get out of there. If we can save your property, that's great, but our first priority is we're not going to have any more missiles in the hands of this group. In fact, we're going to eradicate this group.
Outstanding. I think that's the approach that has to be taken. Otherwise, the carnage doesn't end. Folks, we're on with retired Brigadier General Blaine Holt, United States Air Force. And General Holt, when we look at this, I can't help but I look at the reactions that we get from guys like let's see, I got his name right here, John Kirby, who says, he talks about Hamas, and he says that it doesn't look like they're willing to negotiate in good faith. And I'm thinking, okay, no kidding, right? Isn't this, a restatement of the obvious? Or even former CIA Director Leon Panetta, who was on CBS Sunday Morning just yesterday. He says that the pager explosion was terrorism. Listen to this.
Ability to be able to place an explosive in technology that is very prevalent these days and turn it into a war of terror, really, a war of terror. This is something new.
Is it terrorism?
I don't think there's any question that it's a form of terrorism.
Former Defense Secretary and former Director of the CIA, Leon Panetta, wasted no words in describing what he fears may be the result of letting this particular genie out of the bottle.
This has gone right into the supply chain.
Yeah.
Right into the supply chain. And when you have terror going into the supply chain, it makes people ask the question, what the hell is next?
It sounds like you're genuinely worried.
I am. This is a tactic that has repercussions. And we really don't know what those repercussions are going to be.
Well, I think there are repercussions when you have a former CIA director out there, waving the white flag in many ways. Oh, my gosh, I'm so concerned. There's repercussions. The supply chain, when, there are Israelis getting killed. And last I heard, they were allegedly our allies. General Holt.
His comments are absolutely irresponsible. The secretary has lost his way here. And I get it. He's a secretary whose political allegiances sit firmly with the Obama and Biden camps. But there is no reason to engage in that kind of rhetoric and that kind of accusatory language against our staunch ally, Israel. And that's really been the problem. So what the secretary would have been more balanced and measured had he commented would say, this is what you get when you turn your back on your ally. They're left to their own designs to come up with their own innovative ways at getting at their enemies. Now, before he gets into this terrorism stuff, I would remind him that this was a very surgical strike. Those pagers were on targets. And yes, there's collateral damage. But let's not forget the carnage that was brought on 7 October. And every single day since Pager Day, you saw Hezbollah rockets in the air aimed at civilians in Israel. So a very incomplete picture, very reckless picture on my view. And to call what Israel did terrorism, I think is absolutely beyond the pale. And I know normally you don't hear such an edge in how I'm painting these things, but quite honestly, we have to somehow mend fences with the Israelis as we go forward, because in their existential crisis, we turned our back on them. And they're going to see this through, and they're going to eradicate Hezbollah, and they're going to eradicate Hamas. And he's going to have crocodile tears over the loss of 2 proxy groups from Iran. That's amazing to me.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. What is the benefit other than to send a coded message to the bad guys saying, hey, we're still with you? Maybe that's a little bit too much on my side, but honestly, I didn't see the benefit of it. Folks, we're on with Brigadier General Blaine Holt. We're going to continue this discussion on all of that. Plus, Zelensky is in town. Volodymyr Zelensky in town. I'm guessing hat in hand like he usually is. Apparently, he's here to talk about his winning strategy. And listen, I want them to win. I'm not ridiculing the need to win. I'm ridiculing the fact we sent money hand over fist with zero plan. So I want to get your thoughts on that, General Holt, and more when we return. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, America, welcome back. And I want to continue the conversation here with our guest, Brigadier General Blaine Holt, who has been weighing in on this stuff. And General, like I mentioned, there's a lot happening right now. What's his name? I guess he's Prime Minister, President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, is in town. And I feel like, the Democrats tend to get really excited when he comes to town. and whenever they get excited, I get a little nervous. What's going on here?
Well, I think it's interesting that on one side, the administration is still hurling out expletives to get a ceasefire done in Gaza. said the president today, just get it something done. And on the other side, if you ask them about Ukraine, nary a word of ceasefire, nary a word of conflict cessation. Here's the problem. You nailed it before when we were just on, and you talked about, well, we've sent a lot of money and weapons over there, but we didn't send a strategy over there, and we certainly haven't sent any diplomats to push this back. This started as a deterrable war. And I get it. The Russians were not justified in crossing that border and invading. Nobody's defending that. But there have been junctures to have conflict cessation. And right out of the gate in March, they didn't do that. So here we are, hundreds of thousands of people dead, a third of a country displaced, $1 trillion in infrastructure damage. And somebody please tell me how this is going to end with a country that has nuclear weapons, 700,000 in its forces, and wants to take its active duty forces up to 1.3 million. This is a very, very dangerous conflict. It's getting worse. So you're right. Zelensky is here. He's going to be asking for more resources. He's going to present a plan that is his victory plan. What does that look like? Do you remember the counteroffensive, the spring, summer, winter, fall counteroffensive? When is this going to happen? So nobody is not pulling for the Ukrainian people. I mean, I have a lot of Ukrainian friends, and I can't tell you the amount of tragedy and horror, but the West, with its incompetence and its dearth of strategy, hasn't done this country any favors or any realistic assessments about what can be achieved versus a very determined Russia.
Yeah, and this is, I think, problematic, obviously, and it's something that we need to nip in the bud. And I'm honestly, I guess my own naivete says I'm kind of shocked that we haven't tried to resolve this yet. And then I guess, I appeal to my own better senses and say, well, I think this is exactly how it works, right? You have these ongoing conflicts where you feed the military-industrial complex. They do what they do. The Democrats seem to be the war party as of late, and a handful of Democrats, and voila, this is how everybody's making money. But I feel like Trump made such strides in still feeding the military-industrial complex, $750 billion in the military budget, revamped the military, made it really nice, effective and safe, for our troops to be able to defend themselves well, and still didn't create any new conflicts. What's wrong with that approach?
There's nothing wrong with that approach. That is what Ronald Reagan taught us, and actually, I would argue President Trump perfected, which is peace through strength does work. And yes, a robust defense budget was still there to be had. He was working on reforming the defense industrial base to have to earn that money more. We pay too much for these weapons. If you're going to be throwing $4 million missiles at a $250,000 drone, I can tell you what day mathematically you're going to lose the war. So if you recall, even on President Trump's review of the new Air Force One, he sent Boeing packing. He said, no, this is a terrible deal. I'm not going to pay this kind of money for this airplane. That's the type of attitude we have. You don't just sit there and rubber stamp these programs. And to your first point, yes, we've had nothing but endless war going back to Gulf War I. And all of my compatriots who watched in mollified horror as Kabul, Afghanistan ended the way it did. 20 years of blood, limbs, treasure, families wrecked, to see it come down to that. And then we just skip a beat. We say, oh, well, the new war won't have American boots on the ground and everybody will be happy. But War Incorporated has to stop. We're bankrupting ourselves. We're bankrupting the West. And when we do that, we just make ourselves more vulnerable to our adversaries. President Trump understands that. You can look no further than the Abraham Accords for a demilitarized strategic approach to how nations can work together without having the exact same governance systems, without having the exact same value systems. And if it could work in the Middle East, it could work globally.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, General Holt, I want you to let everybody know how they can find you. I know you're constantly sought after in the media, and you're speaking about this. You're writing about it on Newsmax. Let everybody know where to go.
Well, I would love them to come visit me on Newsmax on the Insiders page at The Irascible Disruptor. I try to write once a week. I took a heck of a 7-week break and came out last week with a piece about communism. And then at restore-liberty.org is a nonpartisan nonprofit that supports the Constitution and American values. And you can always come find me at those places or come check out Newsmax. I'm liable to be on that time you're looking.
Outstanding. General Holt, you are a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. Thank you for being here. As always, I'll be calling on you soon to get an update on everything that's going on in the world. Thank you, sir.
Always at your service, my brother. You take care.
You bet. God bless. All right, folks, we're coming right back. Still got a lot to cover. Plus, a little bit later, we're going to talk more about specifically what is happening with the plants that China is trying to buy in Michigan and other places. Plus, Michigan is still a battleground state. Things are neck and neck there. We're going to get a report on what's going on there. Plus, I also want to learn a little bit more about what's happening with the craziness on our campus. Right? We have campuses across the country. We're going to get a report from somebody live at the University of Florida telling us about Gen Z and, of course, the Taylor Swift vote. So keep it locked right here. Way more to come straight ahead. I'm Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. No hair, no care, and live on the air, it's Rich Valdez.
All right, America, welcome back. We continue, and we go to the phones, 833-4-VALDEZ, 833-482-5337. Let's see what we've got cooking over here in Clarksville, Georgia, with the wrong call letters. It's streaming online. Go right ahead, Tom.
Hey, Rich. Appreciate you taking my call. So 2 things, real quick, and then the main point. Who is paying for the cars that the Haitians are driving in that town in
Not
Ohio?
sure.
Who's building the...
What else you got?
Yeah, okay, but that would be good to know.
I don't even know that they're driving cars, so I can't even get into that. What else you got? Anything on Israel?
There's causing all these wrecks. Okay.
Do you hear me or no?
Israeli,
Okay, go ahead.
yeah, do you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you talking about things I'm not talking about. It's only a 3-hour show. We got like 30 seconds left, Tom. Let's go.
The pager attack by the Israelis. This is what I was talking to your call screener about. The pager attack. I think the Israelis are so smart that they played the White House and the State Department and all the snakes inside there.
How so?
With the 3-day advance warning that they were going to attack Hezbollah, the snakes in the administration.
But how are they playing the U.S.? That's my question.
Okay, I'm getting there.
Well, you're taking too long, sir. Your music's going to come in. You're going to get cut off, and nobody's going to understand what you're talking about.
You're taking up my time by interrupting
All right,
me.
you lost. Take care, Tom. Thanks for your call. You got to get better at this. Anyway, we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff in the upcoming hour. Like I said, we're going to talk about campus reform correspondent Emily Sturge and her story coming out of the University of Florida. We've also got Tom Barrett. He's a candidate for Congress in Michigan's 7th District, which is a battleground state. We're going to find out what's going on there because apparently there's still a back and forth over the deal for a Chinese company to build a big warehouse there. And for your calls as well, as long as you can get to the point on time, happy to talk to you. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. More to come straight ahead. Rich Valdez, America at Night. Check us out online, by the way, at richvaldez.com. I'll be right back.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to hour number 2 of the program. Looking forward to speaking with you at 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And I want to get into a couple of things. As I mentioned in the last hour, I wanted to talk about the battleground state of Michigan. There's some polls out that are indicating that there might be, a bit of a horse race in Michigan when it comes to winning it. So I want to get into that. I want to talk about as well as what's going on college campuses all across America. We saw them under siege not too long ago with quote unquote protests all over them. So we're going to get into that as well. But big news today, Israel's on a 5-front war, which is a big deal, right? Obviously, a one-front war is a big deal. Imagine fighting a war on 5 different fronts against Hezbollah and Lebanon and the Houthi rebels and everybody else that's involved in that one way or another peripherally as a proxy of Iran. And there was another big deal today. We found out that the shooter or the would-be shooter from the second Trump assassination attempt, well, this guy apparently wrote a letter and dropped it off with a friend of his and, just like in case people don't believe me or in case they can't catch me or that type of thing, and lo and behold, his friend calls the cops and says, hey, I got this letter. And there it is. So the Trump shooter admits to saying, hey, look, I tried to kill him. The idea here was I was trying to kill him. Just, very interesting stuff. Anyway, we're going to get into a little bit more on the campaign stuff. But earlier I played a clip for you, and I'll probably play it again, of President Trump at a rally in Pennsylvania. Part of Pennsylvania called Indiana, Pennsylvania, another battleground state. And there was something that he said there about China and the CCP that I want to get into in a moment. But he also talked about how bad things are going, right? He talked about how difficult the last 4 years have been. And I want you to hear what he says about Kamala Harris and how she stacks up to Sleepy Joe.
We had people that were so incompetent. They were the most incompetent leaders in the whole world. And she is worse than Sleepy Joe Biden. She's worse. She's worse. 43 days from now, we're going to win Pennsylvania and take our country back, and we're going to be so happy. And it'll be the most important day and the most important vote in the history of our country because we're losing our country.
I think President Trump is right. There's a lot of tradition that's being lost in our country. There's a lot of enthusiasm that's being lost in our country. And we need a way to get back to it because right now you've got one political party that's saying, I'm not Trump, and another political party that's saying, we need to make things great again. And to me, there's only one message that's actually worth listening to. But I want to get an update from Tom Barrett. He's running for Congress in Michigan, 7th District. He's on the ground in the battleground state. And there's a lot going on there from the communist Chinese trying to open an EV battery plant and so much more. Let's go to Tom Barrett. Welcome, sir.
Rich, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. And good evening to all your listeners, too.
Yeah, you bet. So, Tom Barrett, tell us a little bit about what you think about Trump just said that, the last 4 years have been a disaster under Biden and Harris and how we can't really afford another 4 years of that. Your thoughts?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're exactly right. I tell people every day, I'm old enough to remember that when President Trump was in office, if you worked hard here in America, you had a little bit of money left over at the end of the month. And now, no matter how hard you work under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, you've got too much month left at the end of your money. And American families everywhere across this country, whether they're in the 7th Congressional District in Michigan, or they're out in Pennsylvania where President Trump was speaking today, they realize the economic consequences of what this administration has done. Just printing and spending and printing and spending more and more money that makes all of the value of the dollars that we have, whether it's through our wages that we've earned, a little bit of savings we've set aside, an emergency fund we may have, or a little bit of money set aside for retirement, it becomes worth less and less. Groceries are off the charts. Families can't afford it anymore. And the results of that are absolutely astronomical. Credit card debt, the highest in our nation's history, topping over $1 trillion now in consumer credit card debt. It's sad and it's devastating, and we can't keep doing it the way we are now.
Yeah, really well put. Again, Tom Barrett is a candidate for Congress in Michigan's 7th District. And Tom Barrett, for the listeners who are just learning about you, tell us all about your background, what you've done, and why you decided to throw your hat in the ring in a race for Congress.
Sure. Thank you. So my background is in the United States Army. That's what I did. Signed my contract my senior year of high school, enlisted into the Army, and left just a few days after I graduated. Actually took the first airplane ride of my life to basic training out to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And then I was a young private over in Korea when 9/11 happened, and decided to stay in the Army after that point, ended up making a career out of it. Deployed after South Korea. I went to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba for a year, was a block sergeant there guarding the Taliban and Al-Qaeda detainees in Guantanamo Bay, and then did a tour in Iraq, was a convoy commander in Iraq doing convoy security there, and then got selected to go to flight school and learn to fly some amazing helicopters in the Army, and finished out my career as a helicopter pilot, and retired from that 2 years ago. My wife and I are raising our 4 kids in Charlotte, Michigan, spelled like Charlotte, but we say Charlotte here in Michigan, and it's a small town outside of Lansing. And we have 4 kids that we're raising, and really I'm motivated to do this because I care about the future of our country, like all of your listeners do. And I just feel like families like mine aren't having our voices heard in Washington today. And so that's really motivated me to step up and do this.
Well, it sounds like a good plan. This is something I talk about all the time, and I tell people, if we don't like the media, we need to become the media, effectuate change from the inside out. If you don't like Congress, then you need to become Congress and do the same, make the change from the inside out. Folks, again, Tom Barrett is our guest. Tom Barrett, 2 R's, 2 T's for Congress.com. And Tom Barrett, what is, in your opinion, the number one issue facing America by way of the folks in the 7th District of Michigan?
Yeah, well, the folks that I talk to and the conversations I have and the families that I listen to, they talk about the economy as their foremost concern, and I think that's really grounded in a lot of the issues that we spoke about. Just the feeling that you can't get ahead in America today, no matter what you do. The deck is stacked. Everything is more expensive. Nothing is affordable. The economy is out of sorts. Credit card debt is off the charts. That's really the overwhelming angst that I think people see and feel. And then from there, you see our southern border wide open. People feel lack of security because of that. We've had 10 million illegal border crossings just in this administration. I remind people that's more than the population of the entire state of Michigan. And that's what we've had in illegal border crossings.
Wow.
Just in the last 3 years.
That's a lot of
3.5
people.
years of, it's a lot of people, believe me. Yeah, you've ever been stuck in traffic and, going down to Detroit Metro Airport, you remind of how many people it is in Michigan.
That's crazy. Tom Barrett, I want to play a clip of audio before you move on, just to get your reaction to it, because it's something that you mentioned, and President Trump brought it up tonight at his campaign rally in Indiana, Pennsylvania. And it sounds similar to what you're talking about, that's facing not only the American people, but the folks in your district. Check this out.
Kamala Harris is reportedly given a speech in Pittsburgh. Her speeches are very short. About her plan to, quote, build wealth. She doesn't know anything about building wealth. But she's been in office for 3.5 years. She's saying what she's going to do if she becomes president. But she's been there almost 4 years. She hasn't done anything except destroy our country with millions of people that shouldn't be here. And inflation. And inflation.
So there you go. He's talking about inflation. He's talking about the economy and inability to build wealth. Sounds like that's exactly what people in your district are facing.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And that's what they're expressing out of their frustration is, just really this feeling of economic, insincerity by our political leaders, but also just this pessimistic feeling that is out there that the economy isn't going to come back to normal, that houses, homes aren't going to be affordable. We actually hosted President Trump in the small town in Michigan, Potterville, Michigan, that I moved to 4 days after I came home from Iraq. My wife and I bought our first home there. And that same home today is less affordable for a young couple looking to start a family just like my wife and I did 16 years ago. And that is a real indicator of the underlying problem that's going on. Mortgage rates are more expensive. Homes are more costly. We don't have enough inventory. And we're competing, and now American families and young couples, young families are competing against 10 million illegal immigrants coming into the country for housing now. We're housing illegal immigrants above the interests of our American citizens, homeless veterans, others that are struggling, and we're putting, American money and taxpayer resources behind housing illegal immigrants above the needs of our own citizens. So this is something that is so distorted in our country. And people see it and feel it, and that's why you're seeing President Trump pick up momentum across this country. And I think he's going to win election this year.
Outstanding. Folks, we're going to come right back with Tom Barrett and learn about the latest update on what the Chinese Communist Party is trying to do with the EV plant, the electric vehicle battery plant they're trying to build in Michigan, and a lot more. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Mr. Call Screener, who is a budding radio star, by the way. Richie Valdez is terrific.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
We have to be strong and powerful again, and we must put tariffs on foreign predators. They are predators, so that they don't destroy our steel industry. The people that like me the most of the steel, they were dead when I came into office. They were dead. And I put taxes on China. China was dumping massive amounts of steel to destroy our companies. I put a 50% tariff, then I raised it in some cases to 100%. And at a certain level, they said, no mas, we're not doing it. Remember, no mas, Roberto. We love Roberto Durando. And no mas, no mas.
That is El Trompito Donaldus Magnus, the 45th president of these United States, at his rally in Pennsylvania just about 2 or 3 hours ago. And he says he's hitting the Chinese Communist Party hard, whether it's on steel companies, on with tariffs, on everything else, right? This is what he's doing. And they continue. They're making moves on everything. The Chinese are trying to create a run on gold. They're trying to corner the market on electric vehicle batteries and the mining rights to the resources needed to create these batteries. And now they're trying to do it right in Michigan. And we talked about this a couple of months ago when this story first broke, but I'd like to get an update from our guest, Tom Barrett, who is a candidate for Congress in Michigan's 7th District. Tom Barrett, welcome back, sir.
Thank you, Rich, and you're right for bringing up this topic. It's a huge concern. It's got a bunch of national security implications and a ton of economic implications, too, especially for folks here in Michigan.
Well, tell us what's going on.
So there's this Chinese company called Goshen. They've been lured here to Michigan by our Democratic governor, Gretchen Whitmer, and lured them with almost $200 million in state tax money to come to Michigan to build an electric vehicle battery plant just not far from a military installation, Camp Grayling military installation, a combined arms training area of Michigan, where I've spent countless hours of my own life training on aircraft and everything else there. And this is a huge national security concern. Barack Obama's own CIA director, Leon Panetta, said that this project would absolutely be used for espionage against the United States. And again, it's not far from a military installation where the Chinese could develop absolute, intelligence threats against the United States. It's a huge economic concern because this electric vehicle mandate that is coming through the EPA against the will of American people, is going to systematically dismantle the manufacturing fiber and fabric of Michigan, but also in the entire ecosystem of, automotive manufacturing, from the steel in Pennsylvania to everything else along the supply chain that goes into the parts and pieces of an automobile. I tell people all the time, I'm not too proud to admit that my wife and I can't afford an electric vehicle for our family. We have 4 kids.
Yeah.
They don't make a lot of offerings like that fit our needs and fit our budget.
They're not
cheap.
cheap.
Ought to be they're not cheap, and it ought to be up to every individual to decide which vehicle meets their needs and fits their budget, not some social engineering vision out of some unelected bureaucrat in Washington, D.C. This is a massive problem. It's got national security implications. My own opponent in this race signed a non-disclosure agreement with this over this Chinese company deal to send them $200 million of state tax money. It's rotten to the core, and we got to stop it from happening.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Folks, we're on with Tom Barrett. And Tom Barrett, let everybody know what it is that you need in order to win. I know you've got the support of a lot of people out there. Tell us what you need. Is it people on the ground to come out and support, donations? Talk to us.
Yeah, it's all of the above, really. I mean, the biggest thing in my race is going to be folks across the country that can't come to the Lansing area of Michigan and help us knock on doors and win this campaign. If you can send us some contributions online, my website is tombarrettforcongress.com. There's a donate link there. This will probably be the most expensive or second most expensive congressional race in America. It's the number one top competitive open seat in the entire country this year. When we win here, the Cook Political Report says it dismantles the Democrats' ability to take a majority in Congress. This is one we critically have to win, but it's going to take a lot of help to get us there. The polls have me ahead, but they're going scorched earth on the airwaves right now, just trying to completely, reverse this race, and we can't let them do it. So we need all the help we can get.
Folks, check them out at tombarrettforcongress.com. tombarrettforcongress.com. That's Barrett with 2 R's and 2 T's. tombarrettforcongress.com. And Tom, I want to wish you the best of luck. I appreciate you being here and give us an update on what's going on. Hopefully we'll have you back soon.
I'd love to. Thank you, Rich. Thanks so much for having me on, and thank you to all your listeners.
You bet. God bless. And we continue, folks. I want to continue the conversation because just like the battleground state of Michigan, there's a bunch of battleground states out there, and you're likely going to see a lot of manufactured hysteria coming out of these areas, whether it's protests on college campuses or otherwise. Just last night in Philly, we saw a lot of craziness. I mean, it's all over the place. I don't know how to peg it this time, if it's going to be the anti-fascist group, Antifa, if it's going to be the remnants of the Black Lives Matter movement, if it's going to be the pro-Hamas college group, or groups, I should say, like Queers for Palestine or whatever else is out there. There's a lot of them. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that in the days to come. But we'll find out more of what's happening on college campuses straight ahead. Plus your calls, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ is the number. Looking forward to chatting with you at the top of the next hour as well. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations. I had somebody. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
right. But you're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
I am incredibly grateful, first of all, to Taylor Swift. I say that also as a cat owner, a fellow cat owner. Look, Swifties, you heard it. We know that it's there. That was eloquent. And it was clear. And that's the type of courage we need in America to stand up. We've seen it out of those Republicans who were at the DNC. We've seen it out of women who would like to have their own personal lives kept personal, but are forced to go out there because they nearly died because they can't get abortion services in a pregnancy. And now you have somebody like Taylor Swift coming out, making that very clear. This would be the opportunity, Swifties. KamalaHarris.com. Get on over there. Give us a hand. Get things going.
That, of course, is Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, known here as Tiananmen Tim. And Tiananmen Tim Walz calling on Taylor Swift's fan base, known as the Swifties, to get it in gear. There's a big push. Who will Generation Z vote for? I've seen poll after poll saying the Generation Z men are starting to trend towards Trump. And, of course, Kamala Harris at one point saying they're the stupidest generation, and then recently just saying they're fantastic, they're visionary, they're this and that. One more flip-flop from the Harris campaign. I want to get a perspective from this from our guest, Emily Sturge. She is the correspondent for Campus Reform at the University of Florida, and she's our guest now. Emily, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. So let's talk a little bit about this. A week ago, or whatever, a week and a half ago, when Taylor Swift endorsed Kamala Harris, who I like to call Kamala Harris, which means how bad you are in Spanish, and she really is bad. She was happy about this, and a lot of people are happy about it. They think this is the main event here. You know, once you get the Swift endorsement, voila, it's an instant win. But I don't know if that's necessarily the case. You're on the college campus scene. Tell us what's going on.
In the same way that America doesn't trust Taylor Swift with relationship advice, I don't think America should be trusting Taylor Swift with voting advice. And let's be real, Taylor Swift's endorsement does not reflect the priorities or concerns of everyday voters like you and me, everyday voters in middle America. So many people feel like she shouldn't be telling us who to vote for. Taylor Swift isn't at the grocery store having to decide to feed her family or pay her electricity bill. She's on her private jet while the rest of America is commuting to work. She doesn't live the same way that most of America does, so it's no surprise to me that she's okay with 4 more years of the Biden-Harris disastrous economy.
Yeah, listen, I'm with you on that one. And this truly is a problem. What do you think is actually going on, at least from your perspective? And I know you're in Florida, which tends to skew kind of red, but are the Democrats, is Kamala Harris's message resonating with young people, or are young people saying this lady's a fake, she's a phony, and she's a fraud?
I've seen both sides. I've seen Gen Z absolutely captured by the Kamala Harris social media campaign. But as of right now, we have 43 days until the election. We have 43 days until my generation finds out if they can afford a home or if we're going into World War III. And so right now, the Gen Z vote, honestly, it's up for grabs. New data is suggesting that young voters are representing one of the largest groups of undecided voters left in this presidential election, which gives either candidate an opportunity to resonate with them and secure these votes. Donald Trump still has an opportunity to resonate with my generation by focusing on policies that will make our lives better, put money back into our wallets, and revive the American dream of home ownership and starting a family, while also reminding us of the Biden-Harris policies that have driven inflation through the roof, taken money out of our wallets, and made our lives more difficult.
Clearly, those issues are important. Do you feel any shift in momentum? I see that there's polls coming out recently with Hispanic voters tending to start moving over to Trump's column. I'm wondering if there, I haven't seen any as of late, but have you seen any polling indicating Gen Z is making a move?
You know, I feel it on my college campus every single day. I'm sitting among Gen Z voters. Many of us are casting our first ever vote for a presidential candidate. And young people like me remember feeling better off during the Trump administration. The polls don't always tell the full story, but I will tell you what I see every day. I see Gen Z working hard to do well in school, to graduate, to afford their expenses, and to pay off their debts in hope of one day being able to own a home and start a family. Gen Z isn't falling for Kamala Harris's lies, her false promises that she's waving in our face, her $25,000 tax credit for new home buyers, her student loan forgiveness. We know that these initiatives would drive up prices, and we've suffered under the Biden-Harris inflation disastrous economy enough, we realize that more government spending is only going to make our situation worse.
All right, Emily. And I also want to get your take on traditional and kind of religious voters that are voting their values. There's a lot going on. We had John Kahn on Friday. He's got that new song, Fight, inspired by President Trump. And it seems to be, it was rocking the Apple Music chart. And in good part, this is young people that are fueling that meteoric rise. Are you seeing any movement? I guess is the left ceding any ground on that front of traditional and religious values? Because you just heard Tim Walz saying that he's a fellow cat owner and he's calling upon the Swifties, and the first issue he goes to is women and protecting their bodily rights, in his words.
We've absolutely seen a shift in young women turning their backs on religion, which is a very disheartening trend. Traditional and religious values once made our country strong, and the left is doing everything in their power to erase these values from society. And specifically, I see women in my generation being attacked through things like abortion. Kamala Harris tells women in my generation that we must support abortion. We must vote for her because of this issue. However, I'm a young woman. I don't believe in that. I'm a Christian young woman. We cannot continue to let the left dictate what it means to be a woman. We can't continue to let the left tell women what political party they need to be in. We need to stand up for our American values and fight back against these leftist lies being sold specifically to young women.
Outstanding. And I want you to let everybody that's listening know how they can follow you and learn more about what you're reporting on for Campus Reform.
At campusreform.org, we are reporting every single day what's happening on college campuses across America. We are a group of college students. We are acting as eyes and ears on college campuses around America, so you can see the latest trends that are happening in higher education at campusreform.org.
Outstanding. Emily Sturge, thank you. And I know it's impolite to ask a woman her age, but for the audience's benefit, I want you to remind them of your age.
I am 21 years old, and I'm very excited to be casting my first ever vote for a presidential candidate this November.
Outstanding. You're doing an amazing job. Emily Sturge for Campus Reform, thank you.
Thank you.
You bet. All right, folks, we continue with your calls and more straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, America, welcome back. And again, gearing up for open phones across America momentarily at the top of the next hour. And I'll be getting to some of your calls before the end of this hour. But I want to bring you a story from the Associated Press. Came out today, a little bit before airtime here. And coming out of Dover, Delaware, New York Newsday is the source. Listen to this. Judge rules out possibility of punitive damages in Smartmatic defamation lawsuit against Newsmax. Yep. So Newsmax TV was getting sued by Smartmatic, the voting machine company. And a Delaware judge says today, the possibility of punitive damages in a defamation lawsuit pitting an electronic voting machine manufacturer targeted by allies of former President Trump against a conservative news outlet that aired accusations of vote manipulation in the 2020 election, not happening. It's been ruled out by the judge. The ruling by Superior Court Judge Eric Davis comes just days before jury selection is set to begin in a court battle between Florida-based Smartmatic and the cable news network Newsmax. Smartmatic claims that Newsmax program hosts and guests made false and defamatory statements in November and December of 2020, implying that Smartmatic participated in rigging the results and that its software was used to switch votes. Newsmax, also based in Florida, argues that it was simply reporting on newsworthy allegations being made by Trump and his supporters, including former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani and conservative attorney Sidney Powell. In a ruling earlier this month, let me see, who's Davis? Oh, the Judge Davis. So in a ruling earlier this month by Judge Davis, said the statements regarding Smartmatic software and voting machines altering the results of the election are factually false. Importantly, however, he rejected Smartmatic's claim that Newsmax acted with express malice under Florida law, meaning that its primary motivation was to injure Smartmatic. There's no evidence that Newsmax acted with any evil intent towards Smartmatic, Davis wrote. Attorneys for Newsmax sought clarification of that ruling, arguing that it meant Smartmatic could not seek punitive damages for any alleged defamation. Newsmax said Smartmatic had agreed that it must prove both express malice and actual malice to recover punitive damages. So, Smartmatic denied any such stipulation and said its definition of express malice was not the same as Newsmax's. Smartmatic also said that it uses the term as imprecise shorthand for a state of mind distinct from actual malice. Punitive damages are subject to a cap and are appropriate if a jury finds intentional misconduct or gross negligence by a defendant, regardless of any intent to harm the plaintiff. That was argued by Smartmatic. The judge today rejected those arguments, saying express malice is well defined under Florida law, and that Florida law requires both actual malice and express malice for punitive damages. To prove that actual malice happened, Smartmatic would have to show that Newsmax acted with reckless disregard for the truth or with knowledge that statements that were being aired were false, knowingly false. So the law, and this is a quote here from Judge Davis in the ruling, the law in Florida is that in order to sustain an award of punitive damages, the plaintiff must present that the defendant's feelings toward the plaintiff evidenced ill will, hostility, or evil intent, wrote Davis, adding that Smartmatic had agreed with Newsmax about punitive damages in a pretrial stipulation. The court will not allow the jury to consider the issue of punitive damages in the trial, he concluded today. Newsmax issued a statement praising the ruling, adding that Smartmatic's lawsuit threatens freedom of speech and freedom of press. Smartmatic said in a statement that the ruling will not deter it from seeking to hold Newsmax liable for its reckless defamation and to recover significant damages. In an earlier ruling, Judge Davis said Newsmax would be allowed to argue that it is protected from liability under Florida's neutral reporting privilege, which extends to disinterested and neutral reporting on matters of public concern. Newsmax argues that the privilege applies because many of the allegedly defamatory statements were made by third parties appearing as guests or were rebroadcast after being made by such third parties on Newsmax platforms. In a ruling favoring Smartmatic, Judge Davis also said earlier this month that it would not limit evidence by Newsmax regarding a federal criminal investigation that led to indictments last month against 3 current and former Smartmatic executives, including the company's Venezuelan-born co-founder, Roger Piñate. The charges involve an alleged scheme to pay more than $1 million in bribes to put Smartmatic voting machines in the Philippines to rig an election. We talked about that on this program. Newsmax also argued that the investigation and indictment should be presented to jurors as alternative reasons for any purported reputational harm or economic loss that Smartmatic blames Newsmax for. That makes sense. You're going to say that Newsmax brought you harm when your CEO was literally indicted for cheating? Bribing people with $1 million? I mean, come on, that's crazy. Anyway, The judge denied Smartmatic's motion to prohibit Newsmax from mentioning the evidence regarding Smartmatic witnesses who have invoked their Fifth Amendment right to self-incrimination. Davis said that the issue will have to be decided on a question-to-question basis at the trial. Piñate is amongst the witnesses scheduled to testify. So there you have the CEO of, or the company, I'm sorry, it says company executive, co-founder, the guy who takes the bribe, or he's allegedly took a bribe, or he's being charged with taking a bribe. And he's going to appear as a witness saying that Newsmax did them dirty. You can't make this up. Sounds like a pretty good case for the Newsmax lawyers. Good for them. The Delaware lawsuit, which takes issue with Newsmax, reports over a 5-week period in late 2020, is one of several stemming from reports by conservative news outlets following the election. Smartmatic also is suing Fox News for defamation in New York, and recently settled a lawsuit in D.C. against One America News. Now, Dominion Voting Systems similarly filed several defamation lawsuits against those who spread similar claims regarding the 2020 election. In a case also presided over Davis, Fox News settled with Dominion in that case for $787 million. So it looks like Fox News should have gotten the same lawyer as Newsmax, because Newsmax was held not liable for their defamation charges, or punitive, I should say, the ability for them to charge punitive damages. And I think Newsmax gets a gold star for this one. And Fox News, man, what you can do with $787 million. Outstanding. Anyway, folks, I'm coming right back. Just wanted to give you an update on that. That's a score for the good guys. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. And with about a minute to go before the break and the beginning of open phones across America, I want to go to Lansing, Michigan, WILS, our great affiliate over there in Michigan. And let's go to Ken. Ken, you're on with Rich Valdez.
Rich, as always, a great show, my radio brother.
Thank you, sir.
Tom Barrett is in my district. I would be voting for him as my congressman. He lives just like 20 miles outside of Lansing, and I live in Lansing. But they're running commercials up here, and I don't know if it's disinformation or misinformation, saying that he would not allow an abortion in the case of rape or incest, no matter what. And I really disagree with that idea. If something happened to a family member of mine that they were sexually assaulted, I damn sure would want them to have the ability to take care of that.
Yeah,
but,
you know, the good news, Ken, is that I've never met a congressman that decides what happens with abortion. So we're in good shape on that front. I've never seen Congress members affect anything, because the Supreme Court just recently decided that it's up to the states to decide those things. So federal congressman, you're in the clear. It sounds like a bunch of BS to me. Thank you for your call, my brother. Big shout out to you, Ken. Thank you for your kind words, and shout out to everybody listening on WILS out of Lansing, Michigan. And folks, the rest of your calls were coming your way. I see we've got calls from New York, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Idaho, and more that are coming in. Here's the number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Get in early so we can get to you quickly before, we don't want anybody on hold at the end of the night. Don't go anywhere. It's Rich Valdez coming right back.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to hour number 3 of the program. It's Monday night. We're live, we're national. Here's the phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And I am, I've got a lot to talk about, but I really want to hear from you guys. I'm really excited to hear what you guys have to say because obviously there's a lot going on tonight. And something that I wanted you to hear was Trump tonight. He made a call to Christians and gun owners to make sure they get out and vote. And he was at a campaign rally tonight in Indiana, Pennsylvania. We're going to give you that audio in a second. Also, tonight we've had a lot of conversation. We spoke with General Blaine Holt earlier this evening about what's going on with the latest with Iran and their proxies and their war against the Israelis. And Netanyahu speaking out on that. I've got a clip of Netanyahu that I want you to hear. I also have a report from ABC News that kind of sums up what's happened over the weekend with all these attacks and rocket attacks and people that have died as a result, and Hezbollah hiding missiles inside private homes, similar to what Hamas has been doing. So we'll get a report on that as well. Plus, Elon Musk put this lengthy post out, a video, a few minutes long, but well worth listening to, that included clips. And it wasn't Elon Musk himself, right? He was basically retweeting somebody that had made a video, a young black man that said, you know, as a young black man, I was told Trump was a racist, but when I looked into this, I discovered he was not. And again, that's not Musk or me talking. That was this particular young black man who made this really good video, and I'm going to play that for you as well. And what else? There's also on that front, 7 of 8 undecided black voters in Georgia decided that they were going to go with Trump over Kamala Harris. El Trompito versus Kamala Harris. And that's interesting. I'm going to get to that as well. But I wanted to start off with what Trump said, because Trump made a very interesting call. Actually, you know what? Before I get to the Trump, I'm going to get to this. You know what? I'm indecisive. Play the Trump calling on the Christians.
If we had Christians voting in full strength, we couldn't lose. If we had the gun owners voting at full strength, we couldn't lose. We have to get gun owners because your guns are under siege. She wants to take your guns away.
Now, this comes on the heels of Kamala Harris having her, you know, live Oprah Winfrey show with Oprah in Michigan, and obviously people don't want that, right? The people there seemed very upset with Kamala Harris and her lack of answers. Even Oprah at one point, the face that she was making, like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. I actually did this for you, Oprah. I mean, Kamala, this is very bad. And I agree that she did a very poor job, and I think Trump is right to call on whoever he wants to vote, because everybody needs to get out and vote. And, you know, let me tell you, the biggest fear I have, and I don't talk about fear too much, but I'll tell you the fear I have, and get out there and tell your friends about this. What I've heard more than anything, people ask me, are we going to win? And I tell them, I think so. I feel very confident we will if everybody gets out and votes. But I'm literally talking about you. That's what I tell them. And they all look at me and go, well, I don't know if my vote counts. As if I may not be going to vote, but I'm hoping that you all do. There's a lot of people with this lackadaisical attitude. Like, you vote and I won't. That's not going to cut it. If we don't have massive voter turnout, and I don't care if you live in the bluest state ever that's never, ever gone Republican at all. It doesn't matter to me. You've seen how things turn out. New York, New Jersey. People are enthusiastic about supporting Trump. I don't think you've ever seen this for a Republican, but for Ronald Reagan back in the 80s. So guess what happened with Reagan back in the 80s? The invention of Reagan Democrats, right? So I think that there is a good probability that there are Democrats out there that like Trump. Just look at the most recent Teamsters right? The Teamsters not choosing to make a formal endorsement because, they were likely going to go with Kamala, but the rank and file all went with Trump. So guess what? You've got, blue-collar Democrat steamfitters union as well came out for Trump. There's a lot of people coming out for Trump that were once, in the tank for the Democrats. So I think it's not outside of the realm of reason. We probably got to bring one of our pollsters back on, but I don't know what month that was, maybe June, when we saw that there was 7 points, right? 7-point spread between the Republicans and the Democrats in New Jersey. I hadn't seen that ever. So, I think it's I don't know what that is today. I'd have to do a little research on that and get a more recent poll. But the point is, I have not found people that are enthusiastic about Kamala Harris. I have only found people that are enthusiastic about Trump. Sometimes people that are surprising to me because they voted for Obama twice. But that's the thing. A lot of people voting for Trump were people that voted for Obama twice. He has that type of across the aisle appeal. So I think that's important. So I say kudos to Trump for calling on Christians and gun owners and anybody else that he wants to vote. I think that's the way to do it. You invite the vote of everyone that's available. Let's go to Tom in Pittsburgh. Tom on KDKA. Go right ahead. You're on with Rich Valdez.
Hi, Rich. Great show as always.
Thank you.
Rich, you sound like a fine Christian gentleman to me. And, Rich, there are millions and millions of Christians in this country, voting Christians in this country. And a basic tenet, Rich, of Christianity is that life begins at the conception. And Kamala Harris is pro-abortion. Kamala Harris wants to kill an unborn fetus. Kamala Harris wants to kill a living being. Kamala Harris is disgusting. Now, last week, the Pope comes out with a statement. Millions of people look up to this gentleman. He says abortion is evil. People who believe in abortion are evil. Now, I wonder who he was referring to. Rich, you keep up the great work, buddy. Have a great night.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate your kind words, Tom. Very, very nice of you, very kind of you. And, folks, I want to continue with your calls. We're going to be getting to the rest of you momentarily. Hang in there. Again, the number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. And there's a poll from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Came out, let me see, it's a few days ago, 4 or 5 days ago, and indicating that Trump is gaining momentum amongst black voters in Georgia. And this is, again, a big battleground state. Let me see. Trump is now at 9.2% amongst black voters in Georgia. That's up 4 points from July, where he was at 5.8%. According to surveys conducted by the University of Georgia's School of Public and International Affairs, Trump's support amongst this group had declined and is now surging, the biggest surge he's seen since the beginning of the year. Black voters comprise about 1/3 of Georgia's electorate, and it's the highest proportion in any of the key battleground states for the 2024 election. So Georgia's a big deal for Trump here. And Kamala Harris, of course, with him neck and neck, beating him on a couple of those in some of these polls, and by about 3 percentage points, which is within the margin of error. But either way, she's still up. And this is an area where she's expected to be up, but a good area for Trump to try and start closing the gap. And I saw this clip on Where did that come from, Count Delacula, the one we're about to play? Yeah, it was on Instagram, but I think it was a NBC News poll or Daily Mail. Forgive me. I'll try and find that and give it to you. But there were these 8 black voters that were being kind of questioned about, as a focus group, about the issues and choosing Trump over Kamala and why. And the I guess the facilitator of the focus group asked them, by a show of hands, raise your hand if you're voting for Trump or for Kamala. And, then he goes into further issues. Listen to this.
Hand up if you think the economy is better under Trump. And hands up if you think the economy is better under Biden and Harris.
All right, now, what did he find?
7-1. That's pretty
7-1.
Pretty clear. Is it true?
And you see, he's kind of shocked by this. He says, wow, it's 7-1. 7 for Trump, 1 for Harris. Again, this is a random group. And so now he starts asking them, why? Like, why did you get into this? Check this out.
I'm not saying he's like, of course, yeah, like I do say, he has best. He still has a business mindset. I think that linked in somewhat. And I think, yes, the trickle down of whatever previous stuff. And I think he just handles certain things a little better.
Who does?
Trump.
So that was one of the women voters saying that, she felt Trump is better as a businessman and handled things better. And then there was, a couple of others chimed in. Listen to this.
He provided more jobs, more opportunities, similar. Even though he didn't have any experience in politics, but he came in and did a much better job. And if you look at the statistics now, we're far more worse now than we were before.
So whether it's African-American voters or Hispanic voters, white voters, women voters, young voters, Generation Z voters, I think obviously, with I don't know, what is it, 40 days till Election Day or something like that, we have to reach out to everyone, right? And I think both campaigns are attempting to do that in their own unique way. And I think for Republicans, it's been traditionally harder to reach the African-American stronghold of the Democrats. So when you see Trump making any type of gain there, that's, I think, a big win for El Trumpito and the Republicans. I want to get your thoughts on this. Let's go to Jane, Saratoga, New York, WGDJ. Jane, go right ahead.
Hi, Rich. How are you? First of all, I have to tell you, you are the best out there, kiddo.
Oh, thank you. Too kind.
I want to thank you for having Emily Sturge on, the young lady. The wonderful part is she is not woke, and she is not a valley girl. And she comes across in such a refreshing way. I honestly believe that a young woman like that can make a huge difference dealing with other young people. She's very intelligent, and thank you for having her on. She's a remarkable young lady. So
it's my pleasure, and thank you for that, Jane. Now, what do you think about these voters that were, 7 out of 8 raising their hand, all African Americans, saying we like Trump better?
Yeah, I have friends in Georgia and North Carolina, and they're black friends. They are all voting for Trump. And Harris, my God, on Oprah, did you hear her? The noises she was making? Yeah. She
seemed nervous.
Like she was going to have an orgasm. It was terrible.
Oh, security.
But it was terrible. So
I'll agree with you. It was terrible. And yeah, I was really kind of taken aback at how poorly she did, mainly because I would have expected her to do better. It's kind of like you would think that's a familiar territory. It's home based. These people are going to be good to you. A softball interview, if I've ever seen one, and again, nothing wrong with that. There's places Trump goes and he gets, he sits down with Sean Hannity. It's also a softball interview. So I would have thought, it would be relaxed and calm. Yet she seems so on edge.
She's just phony. She's a moron, basically.
Yeah, sadly. And it was crazy to me with that one part, the video. I wish this is where radio, you just can't get what you get out of that video, where she gives this horrible answer on the economy and the cost of living. And even Oprah looked like she was trying to hide her own face. Like, what are you saying, ma'am? It was priceless. Jane in Saratoga, New York, I want to thank you. All right, we continue. Where do we go from here? Let's go to Sandy. She's in Indiana, Pennsylvania, KDKA. Sandy, I hear word on the street was that you were at Trump's rally earlier today in Pennsylvania.
Yes, I actually just got home. I stopped and saw a friend on the way, but it was wonderful. And just a comment on the last woman's talk. I don't think Kamala even would know how to have an orgasm. So,
oh my goodness, what is going on here? Somebody call security. Anyway, tell me about the rally, Sandy. Was it as energetic as it looked on TV?
It was. It was great. It was packed. There were people outside that couldn't get in. I was sitting behind him, 4 rows up, almost similar to the Butler rally where they had people behind him, and I chose to sit there because I could look at the Jumbotron, and see him from the front, but then I also wanted to see him from the back, behind the podium. And he spoke. I mean, he made his points that for 3.5 years nothing has been done. What does she have for her name? She's absolutely done nothing. There were no protests at this rally. I mean, it was on a campus, IUP, Indiana University of Pennsylvania. It was so professionally run. It was packed. I sat with a number of union contractors and people, men and women who worked in the well industry, and he talked about, needing the fracking, for these wells. And I live in a rural area where there is fracking all the time, and it's necessary. It's absolutely necessary. And the other thing I have to say is if those two assassination attempts had been on Kamala Harris and that side, we would never hear the end of it.
Right. Yeah, I think you're 100% right there. It would be sacrilege to suggest anything, and rightfully so. We should treat both of these people, honestly, in my opinion, the same way. Nobody should be getting shot at. Nobody should be afraid of getting killed for giving a political speech. This is America, and this is what we need to protect and defend here. And the fact that you have some Democrats within the media and on television saying things like this is Trump's fault because of the things he says, and life happens and blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's just reckless and it's irresponsible. Nobody would say that the other way around. And I think you bring up an excellent point. Sandy in Indiana County, thank you so much. Any final thought you want to share?
Yeah, I just wanted to say if it had been against the others, it would have been Trump's fault, too.
Right. Damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. Sandy in Indiana County, Pennsylvania, KDKA, America's oldest radio station. And folks, if you missed any portion of our show tonight, any of the interviews we did with our guests, like Senator Marsha Blackburn, who we talked about taking over farmland and China's approach to the United States, you can always go to richvaldez.com. That's Valdez with an S, by the way, richvaldez.com. And check it out. Absolutely free. And you can subscribe to the podcast. I highly recommend that. Folks, we're coming right back with your calls and more straight ahead. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Tonight, the Pentagon sending additional military forces to the Middle East out of an abundance of caution to protect Americans at risk, fearing the exchange of missiles between Israel and Hezbollah may descend into all-out war, with Lebanon reeling after the deadliest Israeli airstrikes in that country in nearly 20 years. Israeli fighter jets roaring across a wide swath of Lebanon, aiming at an astonishing 1,300 targets in what they called a proactive offensive operation against Hezbollah, leaving nearly 500 dead and well more than 1,600 injured, according to Lebanese officials. Apocalyptic scenes on the ground.
Oh my God.
Residents watching in horror, filming as their neighborhoods burn. Hours earlier, Israeli officials sending text messages and radio announcements urging civilians in villages occupied by Hezbollah to leave immediately for their safety. But there was little time before the missiles began to fall. This dashcam video capturing the moment one explodes. Traffic snarling along the main highways, families loading into trucks, hoping to find safety in the capital, Beirut. The Israeli Defense Forces accusing Hezbollah of storing munitions in civilian homes, claiming these videos show what appears to be a cruise missile hidden inside these collapsible walls. Already, Hezbollah launching counterattacks, more than 250 rockets, some hitting near Haifa, the country's third largest city. The Israeli cabinet declaring a special situation nationwide.
That's ABC News' Martha Raddatz, and that's the situation that's going on in the Middle East with Israel retaliating against the attack from Hezbollah. Hezbollah today being revealed to be hiding missiles inside civilian homes. I want to go to Boise, Idaho, KBFI, and check in with our brother Paul. Paul, how are you, sir?
Fine, sir. Thanks for calling on me. I appreciate it. Valdez with an S.
What's going on? What do you think about this Hezbollah situation?
I think it was a long time coming. It goes back to the Reagan administration when in Beirut they blew up the Marine Corps barracks with 231 men. And,
back in Beirut.
That. Yeah, I haven't forgotten that, and it's escalating, and I guess the only thing you could do is what they're doing in the Pentagon, and they're sending more of our boots over there. So I don't like the sound of that, but I guess if they think it's necessary to bring boots over, then I guess that's what we got to do. The problem is Iran, and for some reason they're protecting Iran. I've been thinking about this since 1979 when I saw those hostages come out of the embassy with blindfolds on. And I just for the life of me, I can't understand. In 45 years, they haven't been able to do something about Iran to make them at least toe the line over there. But no, they've got to escalate it. And it's Iran's fault. And you and I went through this October 7th. And that was miserable. I think I cried for a month straight. I don't think I missed a day where I didn't cry about the whole thing.
Sickening.
And, it's disheartening, but it's a part of life sometimes. You got to go to war to protect your own people, not just the gold and the silver and the whatever else you got, but the people need protection. And, we'll just have to wait and see how it goes from here. But I just, I hope it doesn't escalate any further, and that maybe the boots is going to be enough for them to stop doing what they're doing, and maybe not even fire a shot. But they got revenge for those 231 Marines, and I'll tell you what, it made my day. It happened the day after the pagers and the other deals that were going off.
Yeah, and that was a brilliant attack, wasn't it? What do you think about that, the ingenuity behind that?
Well, I'll tell you what, they had the former director of the CIA on there, who I know personally from the days back when I was a kid.
Panetta?
He has a twin brother, so I dealt with the twin brother most of the time. They're both attorneys in my hometown where I grew up. And I disagree 100% with what he said. I think something needed to be done to teach him a lesson, a quick lesson. And for him to say the way he said that, I disagree. That's all I can say on that.
Well, Paul, I want to thank you, brother. And I know that you are on the waiting list. There were some T-shirts, Rich Valdez T-shirts that are on back order, and I promised you one. It's on its way to you as soon as I get it, which should be in the next couple of days. So keep an eye out for that in the next week or so, and a couple other callers that we're getting those. And anybody else who wants to get one, you could find out more about that, I guess, on social media on one of my sites or whatever that is. But I want to continue. Thank you, Paul. Big shout out to you, and thank you always for your comments and kind words. Let us continue. Let us go to Canton, Ohio, WNIR, and check in with Debbie. Debbie loves to call and share her thoughts that typically don't agree with mine. Debbie, go right ahead.
No. We agree on a lot of things, Rich. I'm not antagonistic, but I want to tell you, the best man at my wedding, best man at my wedding 40 years ago was from Afghanistan. He was an immigrant. He was the best friend of my husband, and he was Muslim. Okay, all right. Mm-hmm. He stood up for me. He was the best man, and he still is a great guy, and always will be. So, just gonna say that I'm kind of a worldly kind of person. The thing is, my family looks at this whole situation right now with elections. We've always been kind of Republic. I was pushed into it. But now my family's thinking it's not so much economic for us. We're thinking about the social stuff. That's what we're worried about, the social things.
Well, and Debbie, this is typically how they... Give me a second. This is kind of how they typically split this, right? Some arguments really appeal to people's pocketbooks. And for those people, they typically become more Republican-leaning. And you have some arguments that are social, which are usually rooted in a lot of emotion, that activate that part of somebody that says, you know what, I'm going to support the Democrats. So, it's pretty simple, right? When you ask people just a handful of questions, they have these like little surveys all over to say, are you a Democrat or Republican, like on Facebook or on different websites. And it's a simple thing. They typically ask you questions like, do you support, back in the days it was like, do you support gay marriage and this and that? And it would say, okay, then you're a Democrat or you're a liberal. And if you support, a balanced budget amendment and a smaller government, less government spending, then you're a conservative. And it's hard to be on both sides because most people that really feel like, like I don't wake up in the morning or go to sleep thinking that any person's right to reproduce, man or woman, or anything in between, is the number one issue facing our country. I've never dealt with that. And I've been around this stuff for a while. I go to sleep and wake up thinking about our currency, our safety and security as a nation. And to me, these are the things that make the world go round. My children, I have 2 daughters, what they decide to do with their lives, I wish them the best. I've given them advice. But I don't believe that the number one issue facing them is whether the federal government gets involved in regulating abortion or not. I know that the number one issue that they're going to face is getting a job once they're done with college and affording to pay for college, right? The ability for them to earn a living in this country. And it gets harder and harder. Right? I have one daughter that's in college right now, and she works in fast food. That's her college job, right? There's a couple of fast food places in the food court on campus at her university. And that's typically dominated by students there, which is the idea. But most fast food places, at least in my area, are now being are dominated by folks that many of them don't even speak English because they're recent immigrants to this country, which I'm going to presume some are illegal because of news reports that I've seen, right? There's been news reports showing that certain McDonald's restaurants in the Midwest that were visited by inspectors in the middle of the night had illegal aliens working there that were minors. How about that? So when you see something like that going on, you say, wow, so this potentially takes a job away from your daughter, from my daughter. My daughter is not too proud to work in a burger place and pay her tuition, and she pays a good portion of her tuition. So I think to myself, that's an issue that not only affects me as a dad, but affects her as a young voter and as a young American. My other daughter, same thing, works at a movie theater. thankfully. She's not being threatened by illegal aliens yet in her line of work, and nor am I in my line of work. But, it's happening to people. So these are the issues that I think ultimately make the most sense. It's dollars and cents. And the argument over guns and things like that, again, these are important to many people. But to me, the Constitution's clear, right? We have the right to keep and bear arms. Super. Let's keep and bear those arms. Are automatic weapons legal in America, in any state? No, they're not. There is and has been always a ban on assault weapons, right? Automatic firing weapons. Doesn't happen. So I don't have an issue there either. But some people will continue to try and go after any gun that they don't like and say that it is actually a assault rifle. So I say all of that to say is that there's always going to be differences. But to me, this comes down to the battle of logic versus emotion. And whichever side you're on, you're on. For me, I can get emotional on some issues, but for me, it's always logic that wins the day. I wish I could stay and chat with you a little more, but I have to take a pause. Folks, we're coming right back. The rest of your calls and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue with the rest of your calls. Let's go to Nate calling us from Honolulu, Hawaii, KHKA. Nate, aloha.
Hey, how are you? Thanks so much for taking the call.
My pleasure.
I guess I was just listening to the very nice lady that called right before my call. So I just had a few thoughts about this whole subject. It is a pretty heavy subject, and I'll try.
What subject are you talking about,
Rich? Well, what she's addressing, she didn't fully say this, but I'm picking up on her tone a little
Context.
bit. I think what she's basically saying is she's saying, well, and again, I'm not putting words in her mouth, but I'm just a little implication. She's basically saying, hey, I believe in maybe abortion rights or gay rights or these different social things. And so, I got to vote a certain way because of the social things. She said she's not as concerned about the economy and that. It's about the social issues. Which I fully respect, and I think those are really good reasons to vote for certain candidates. But my thought is this, those good old, and I'm an independent, by the way, but those good old Democrats are pretty sneaky creatures, because the reality is when Trump was in office for his 4 years, he turned it over to the Supreme Court. So we all need to remind ourselves, Trump's not on the Supreme Court, so he didn't get to have a 5-4 or a 6-3 vote. He didn't get to have a vote in any of that. It was strictly the Supreme Court. That's the number one point everyone needs to remember. Number 2 point is, surprisingly, the Supreme Court, turned it back over to the states as far as abortion rights. And most people don't know this statistic, but there's been far more abortions since the Supreme Court turned it back over to the states.
Yeah, that's true. Right. So if you want to blame Trump for one, you got to blame him for both, right? You got to say, because of this, there's been more abortions because of Trump, if that's the way the logic works. And I agree with you. It doesn't work that way because it wasn't his doing. But that's the way it's framed, Nate, that Trump, in effect, is the one who did this because he's a dictator, because he's a threat to democracy. And to me, listen, I'm all for a little rhetoric here and there because it's politics and mud gets flung, if you will. But you have to have some honesty and some truth and what you're doing, right? Shedding light on things as an independent, which I love and I appreciate. it's critical to the national discourse, to this late night national town hall conversation that we have here, because without it, you get lost in the sauce, and everybody's thinking that everything that these people on the left are saying is right, and you do it on both sides. Today I got a text message from somebody that said that the lady who's the head of the NIH was arrested for treason and is sentenced to death in Guantanamo Bay. I mean, just the craziest thing. And Judge Juan Merchan as well. This is, not Democrat talking points, right? These are people that are supportive of Trump, that are hoping that the lawfare will end. And I understand why they're interested in this, but it's fake news. It's probably coming from Iran or from China trying to meddle in the election. And people can't take the bait, Nate.
Yeah. But my final thought really is actually even a little deeper. I'm my little sister, she's a big Taylor Swift fan, and the Swifties before Taylor even endorsed Kamala or any of that, just her normal fans, all these teenager girls, set up their own website, Swifties for Kamala Harris, and all this, and hundreds of thousands of people joined, because she's got like 284 million followers. And just to let you know, this might fascinate you, Rich. Their whole platform, their entire platform. I mean, picture this. They got millions of followers all over the world, and you can go on their website, and it's all planned out. They're working directly with the Democratic Party. This is not a Taylor Swift thing. It's the Democratic Party that's using the Taylor Swift platform and the website. But just to let you know, you go on there every day. They got Zoom calls every day. You can jump on, and everything they're doing is crazy, because the entire thing that Taylor Swift is doing with the Swifties for Kamala is an entire lie. The entire platform, what it's saying is hey, make sure you tell all your friends and family to vote for Kamala Harris, because if Trump wins, he's going to indict the Project 25 commission. And the reality is, he has said over and over every time the subject comes up that he hasn't even taken the time to read. He hasn't even read that.
And even the guy, Nate, the guy who is the architect of it, who quit his job, he was on TV on CNN saying Trump had nothing to do with this. This is our work. Unbelievable. Nate, I got to run right here for a quick break. Thank you for the call from Honolulu, Hawaii. Big shout out to our friends at KHKA in Honolulu. Looking forward to more of your calls from Hawaii. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, it's the speed round. I want to get to your calls in Arizona, Ohio, Arkansas, and Chicago, Illinois. Let's go to William calling us on WLS. William, go for it, my man.
Hey, good morning, brother. Rich, I just want to tell you two things real quick.
Yes,
I'll
sir.
make it fast. First of all, you are becoming a star here in Chicago. You really are.
Thank you, sir.
We all love you. I mean, I'm a retired Teamster. And the more people I turn on to you, they really enjoy it. I just want you to know that.
I really appreciate it.
Also, well, you're welcome. The previous caller that said, that attack in Lebanon, I was there. Okay, 1983, October 21st. Yep. I'm one of the few that survived.
Well, thank God for your service, and thank God you're still here. You got 20 seconds. I'm not trying to get rid of you. I'm just letting you know.
I know. But anyway, I just want to say, Rich, you're loved, okay? Everyone that I hears about you likes you, and you're like the number one radio show at night for us now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, William. That makes me happy to hear, and I appreciate it. Shout out to all of our family out in WLS Chicagoland. And, folks, that's it for me. But shout out to Pat in Arizona on KFNX, Paul in Ohio on WHIZ, Joe in Salem, Arkansas, KSAR. Hasta la próxima. Take care. Good night, and God bless. I'm Rich Valdez.